Hey, and I think we're live. Hey, everybody, Some Gadget Guy here, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the law and copyright. This should be a super fun, exciting conversation for everybody involved. We all love talking about law, politics, and copyright. But there's been a case that's recently been making a lot of noise. It's actually been going on for a little while now, and it's just been in the headlines. I know recently covered on NPR, and I listened to KCRW, and that's actually where I first heard about this case. But it's an interesting case involving copyrighted images, how photography is copyrighted, and who gets to claim copyright on images, and who gets to claim that an image is public domain. And I think it sets a very ugly precedent for the future of how we share media and art on the internet. And so I wanted to take a little time to talk about that and also to get your opinions on how you feel this stuff should be worked out, because I'm not a lawyer. I'll do my proper disclaimer in just a little bit. So the case centers around a very famous image that I'm sure you've seen by now that I'm actually not going to share because I actually do feel kind of strongly about this photographer's case. But the photographer's name is David J Slater, and he took his camera equipment on a trip to Indonesia in 2011 and set up a camera on a tripod, and allowed the monkeys in this area to use the camera. But he set up the camera, he pointed it in the right directions, put all the settings in place, and so the monkeys could play with this camera and hit the shutter button. And that resulted in one beautiful, iconic image of a female monkey looking right down the center of the lens with a big, bright, beautiful smile. It's perfectly in focus. It's a wonderful image. And he has sold that image. He had the copyright on that image and sold that image, and he's made some money off of that image. Recently, he discovered that Wikipedia had been sharing that image for free, and Wikipedia claiming that image was in the public domain. So the claims really started going back and forth January of this year. And so Wikipedia is trying to state that because an animal actually pushed the button, animals cannot enter into legal contracts, they cannot enter into binding contracts, they cannot hold copyright. We do not recognize them as entities that the law should protect with those types of protections. And so they had the legal right to freely distribute this image as a public domain property. And before I get too much more into this discussion, I should absolutely preface that I am not a lawyer, but I have worked on documentaries, and I have worked with lawyers on other properties, web shows, and on a movie review show in which copyrighted materials were featured. And so I am only sharing my experiences having worked on those properties. Again, nothing I'm saying here should ever be taken as legal advice. And if you're considering doing anything with copyrighted material, you should absolutely consult a lawyer before you start producing something. But I do feel that I should share some of my experiences, and especially as after working on those properties and working on those projects, my attitudes towards copyright law have become extremely conservative. I mean, just super conservative as to what I feel is appropriate and what isn't appropriate in sharing copyrighted works, in creating derivative works from copyrighted works. And then that's largely just out of self-preservation, because I would prefer being able to make material and then not get sued into oblivion by people who do hold copyrights on some of this stuff. So again, the crux of Wikipedia's argument is a monkey pushed the button. I find that to be a very disturbing argument, in that there are plenty of other tools and plenty of other tricks that photographers have utilized to capture animals in their natural environment. Slater, as the photographer, set up this camera and set up the settings so that he could capture images of monkeys. So according to Wikipedia's argument, if it's only up to the animal actually pushing the shutter button, then what's to say that any number of other animal photographs that are captured using motion detection, using laser detection, using tripwires, where the animal is responsible for actually triggering the shutter, aren't also public domain? It's a very ugly argument, in my opinion, to make, in that it's taking some of what the artist intended. The photographer, Slater, had an image for trying to capture monkeys in their natural environment in a novel way, in a way in which they are playing with something that is foreign to them, and being able to use that normal monkey curiosity to capture monkeys in their natural habitat. He had that image. But for argument's sake, let's even go down the rabbit hole of saying that Wikipedia is right, And as long as the animal is responsible for triggering the shutter, then those images have to be public domain. It doesn't matter if it's infrared detection, if it's motion detection, if it's laser detection, if it's a hardware button, if it's a weighted pad. The animal was responsible for triggering the shutter. The animal should get the public domain, should get the copyright, but because animals can't have copyrights, all of those images need to be in the public domain. There's also another issue that I have in Wikipedia's stance, in that we do have a process for recopywriting something that is in the public domain, and that is derivative work. So once a piece of art or a piece of media has fallen into the public domain, you're free to do whatever you want with it. You can redistribute it, the original, or not the original, obviously. If it's a famous painting, you can't just take the original painting and give it away. But you can take a photo of that painting and share it with whoever you want. Thing about that is that that photo that you've taken of the painting, or maybe you've done an almost exact copy of the painting as a new painting, that's a new work. That's a derivative work. That is a new piece of media created or inspired by the original image. Wikipedia is not distributing the original photo that the monkey took. Now, David J Slater is a professional photographer. I would find it very hard to believe that he was shooting in JPEG. I would have to believe that, especially myself as a digital camera aficionado, I only shoot RAW because I'm a camera snob and I'm not a professional. But I would have to imagine that he too was probably shooting in RAW. We have never seen the original RAW photograph that monkey took. We have only seen the edited, cropped, color corrected, probably sharpened, edited photo that David Slater took off of the memory card of that camera, put into his computer, manipulated in a fun and exciting way, in a novel way, creating a new piece of media, which was then distributed, and that's what he holds the copyright on. So it's in my opinion, not being a lawyer, that what we're actually sharing is David J. Slater's property, because he has augmented, edited, or changed the original work, which one maybe could argue was public domain. So if the animal was responsible for taking the picture, that picture is in the public domain. We have not seen that image. And so a number of people will try and claim, well, if you're going to be recopywriting a piece of material, if you're going to take a public domain image and you're going to claim derivative work and put a new copyright on it, it needs to be a noticeable change from the original or a substantial change from the original. Other people that I've talked to have also argued that because a piece of media is in the public domain, you're free to do whatever you want with it. So any minor change that you make to this piece of media means that you can claim that it's a derivative work, and you can try and put a copyright on it. Obviously, the closer you are to the original piece of media, the harder it is to really stake a copyright claim on something. But again, we're basing these arguments off of the fact that we've never seen the original work created by the monkey. Like, maybe the exposure was way super bright, and maybe it is subtly out of focus and he had to go in with sharpening tools, and maybe the color was way off because the monkey was blocking something and he had automatic white balance on. I mean, there are any number of things that could actually illustrate a change and the work that the photographer made in creating a piece of media that was worth sharing, and one that has obviously garnered a lot of attention because it's a very popular image now, thanks to Wikipedia sharing it out there for free. And that's another thing that really bothers me, is that a resource like Wikipedia should not stand as the gatekeeper. A resource like Wikipedia should not be the decider on what is and what is not public domain. If they follow the rules, and often for say like a piece of music, I think it's still like once an artist has passed away, then 70 years after that artist has passed away, their works can fall into the public domain. If it falls into the public domain through that, or through some other type of legal issue, or like a movie like Night of the Living Dead fell into the public domain because they didn't copyright the title Night of the Living Dead. They only copyrighted Night of the Flesh Eaters. So Night of the Living Dead is in public domain because of a clerical error. But a situation like this, or if the artist chooses to, you can make something Creative Commons or public domain and just put it out there, and you can say, hey, I made this yesterday, but I am putting it into the public domain. Any one of those situations, Wikipedia can run with it. They can host it on their site, they can share it with whoever they want, but when the original person who distributed that photo, who pulled the photo off of the camera, edited that photo, created a new digital work based on the original raw file from that monkey, comes to them with a good faith takedown request that he is a professional photographer, that's how he makes his living, and that they are sharing something, his property, in good faith, I would say that they're being really crappy in continuing to push this issue, and that they've got some sort of legal argument. And it really does showcase the idea that this image is very popular, so they're probably getting traffic on it, so they want to continue getting traffic on this image, so they're going to continue using it because they want to. And that's one of the most frustrating things about talking about things like Creative Commons, fair use issues on the web. There are plenty of times where I want to use things. I want to use clips from movies. I want to use clips from songs. If I don't have a true fair use reason for using that media, I can't be surprised when I get takedown requests, when I get copyright strikes, when I get legal action taken against me. I don't have the right to use that media to make my media better. I have to do something original, or I have to reach out and establish some kind of licensing deal with the people who do own that copyright. Do copyright laws need to change? Do they need to be re-examined? Absolutely. But as they currently stand, if you don't want to get sued into oblivion by much larger organizations, then you kind of have to play ball with the way that we do examine these types of situations. So it's become an extremely frustrating conversation, especially dealing with this one image. And I really do feel that Wikipedia's response, sort of sticking their fingers in their ears and going, la la la, no, monkey took the picture, monkey took the picture, monkey hit the shutter button, monkey hit the shutter button, is extremely childish. Like at its absolute best, their argument is specious. At its absolute worst, it's almost as if they're trying to make an example of a photographer, of a single entity, of a small business owner of one guy, that they can do whatever they want, or that they have the power to decide for other people what classification their media should fall under, or what classification. If they feel they have the right to use something, they can put it out on the web for free, and then it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, you see, this image is already popular online. There's no way to police it, so it's sort of a de facto public domain. Instead, they were the ones who put it out there. It's sort of like Fox News. Some people say that something bad is happening. Oh, we just got a report from another news entity that something bad is happening. And so they have this problem. I think it's a problem when they have this sort of power, when they have this kind of reach to disseminate information and to disseminate media. But those are just my feelings on the matter. I feel very strongly about this because I do work in an industry in which we are trying to create media. We're trying to create entertainment, where we're trying to create. And the notion that everything should always be for free on the internet is a very scary proposition for a lot of us. Obviously, there are plenty of problems that we need to work through, and new monetization schemes need to be created. An entirely new generation of content producers are going to be responsible for how we make our livings doing this. But if the answer is you just do everything for free and you hope that someone can give you some table scraps or someone can throw you a little cash, that's not really an industry that I want to work in, and that's not really an industry that a lot of people want to work in. And it's kind of funny that a lot of our grassroots people who create content on the internet, that once they start getting a little bit bigger, once they start getting a little bit more popular, they too start to change their opinions on what this stuff should be valued at and how it should be monetized. And no one's come up with the right answer yet, but I do find it interesting that with a little bit of success, that often the conversation subtly changes. So again, I really do think that as people examine the situation, or if they feel strongly about the situation, to reach out, to contact entities like Wikipedia. I sent Wikipedia moderators a couple different messages regarding this because I feel that they're in the wrong, and I feel that what they're doing is irresponsible, and I think it sets a very bad precedent for the future of online media distribution. And maybe you think they're totally right, and I would also encourage you to get involved in the discussion as well, because we all like to consume media on the internet, and I think we would all agree that the higher the quality the media is, the more we enjoy it, and the more we're entertained by it, and the more we want to share it, the more we want to talk about it. And that goes for music, that goes for photography, that goes for video. We want this stuff to get better, and I think we've got an amazing opportunity here to completely redefine our relationship with media, but not when it's done like this, and not when it comes at the expense of the people who actually create this media. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the matter. Drop me some comments down below. Ask me some questions. Ask other people questions. Maybe send this to some lawyers. I'd love to get their take on it, because I think the conversation so far has been focused on whether or not the monkey hit the button, but we haven't heard a lot of discussion on things like derivative work. So even if the monkey's picture did fall into the public domain or is classified as the public domain, we've never seen the monkey's picture. We've only seen Slater's image that he created out of that monkey's original raw output. As always, folks, thanks so much for watching my videos, for sharing my videos, getting involved in the discussion, not here just on my video, but just in general, getting involved in the discussion with these topics that we care about, and the topics that are important to us, reaching out to other people and trying to get them active and engaged in what it is that we're talking about. I've always really appreciated that from you. You guys have been amazing to me in asking questions and keeping these discussions going, and I've always appreciated it. Hit that thumbs up button, and I will catch you all on the next video.